When Michael Jackson came to shoot a music video in Brazil in 1996, it was total chaos. Many fans wanted the King of Pop to visit, but many powerful people didn't want him in this country. The mess involved city halls, drug dealers, the President of the Republic, and even Pelé. Pure, concentrated Brazil. Today, I'm going to tell you the story behind They Don't Care About Us by Michael Jackson. I'm Guilherme, and you're watching Decipher Hits. It was in Brazil that Michael Jackson filmed one of his most watched music videos on YouTube for the song They Don't Care About Us. And even though we're talking about the most talented artist to ever walk this planet, filming this music video was not an easy task at all. This became his most difficult and controversial music video. The song had versions that were banned, censored, and caused so much controversy that the King of Pop had to apologize for the lyrics and scenes. In Brazil, government officials tried to stop the filming, and the music video was shot under the watch of 60 men who worked for the drug lord who controlled the hill, Marcinho Vice President.
In this photo, you can see the superstar Michael Jackson coming down Dona Marta Hill. And those guys in pink that you see are men hired by Marcinho Vice President to escort the singer.
But how did Michael Jackson end up in Brazil? Did he really have to negotiate with drug dealers? And who are the Brazilians who had the honor of meeting the King of Pop? And where are they today? To understand this, we need to go back to 1995. That year, the King of Pop released his 9th studio album, History, which Michael Jackson himself considered the most personal of his career. And out of all the tracks, the one he saw the greatest potential in was They Don't Care About Us, a song that talks a lot about abuse of power, racism, and social inequality. With that in mind, Michael decided that he wasn't going to record just one, but 2 mega music videos for the song. The first one inside a real prison in the United States, with scenes of violence and abuse of power, and the other one here in Brazil, showing communities that are marginalized and kept in poverty due to government neglect and disregard. For that, he called director Spike Lee, who at the time was already famous for having directed the movies Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X, 2 classic works that address racism in a very intelligent way. But, despite the noble intention of the King of Pop, the story of They Don't Care About Us ended up becoming full of controversies. The American prison version was the one that premiered first, and it already caused a lot of controversy as soon as it was released. The music video showed extremely heavy scenes of violence, police brutality, and even executions by firing squad. The images were so graphic that some broadcasters refused to air the video, and major channels like Music Television and VH1 would only show it after 9 p.m. In addition, the song's lyrics themselves were also censored. Some parts Michael sings, "Kick me, call me Kike, don't divide me into black or white." In English, the word kike is an extremely derogatory term used to refer to Jews in this song. Michael wasn't using this word as an attack, but rather as a denunciation, wanting to show that society treats differences with prejudice and violence. But unfortunately, that's not how the American Jewish community saw those words. At the time, several Jewish leaders came forward demanding a retraction. And to avoid being sued, Michael not only had to censor the words Jew and Kike with noise, but he also had to issue a formal apology to the Jewish community. In the song, I feel that I represented the voices of the oppressed and the attacked. That was my only intention. I'm very sorry, and I sincerely apologize from the bottom of my heart if I hurt anyone's feelings by expressing my own. But despite the apology, Michael's problems with They Don't Care About Us were just beginning. And incredibly, the controversies that happened back in the United States were still quite small compared to what was about to happen here in Brazil. The problem started in January 1996. Even before Michael Jackson arrived in Brazil, he and Spike Lee had decided that they were going to shoot in 2 locations, Pelourinho and Salvador's historic center, and Santa Marta Favela in Rio de Janeiro's South Zone. But for that, Michael Jackson and his team needed 2 permits. The first would be the authorization from the local government. By the way, we're talking about the most beloved artist in history and also the most perfectionist. So the government would need to prepare a heavy logistical plan with police, firefighters, ambulances, street closures, and several other measures. The second authorization would come from the Hill's owners. Since, unfortunately, our Brazil doesn't have national sovereignty in its own territory, there are places where not even the police go in. Brazil does have sovereignty, right? The government just doesn't reclaim these territories because it's not in their interest. But we'll talk more about that later. Well, getting permission to film in Salvador was actually pretty easy for Michael's team. After all, the local government knew that his music video could boost tourism, stimulate commerce, and bring a lot of money to the city. But for my Rio de Janeiro, things weren't that easy. It turns out that at the time, the city was bidding to host the 2004 Olympics, an event highly coveted by politicians, precisely because of its potential to bring a lot of money into their pockets. So the governor of Rio de Janeiro at the time, Marcelo Alencar, was totally against the idea of authorizing the filming of Michael Jackson's music video in the city. He feared the video would reveal a side of Brazil the government wanted hidden: social inequality and neglect of the poorest communities. In other words, he thought the music video could tarnish Brazil's image abroad. And it was with this argument that he tried, in every possible way, to prevent the filming from happening. Yes, Ronaldo Cesar Coelho, who was Secretary of Tourism at the time, the commentator's brother, fully supported the governor on this idea. And he even asked Itamaraty, which is Brazil's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to deny entry to Michael Jackson and Spike Lee into the country.
It's not good for Brazil to be stigmatized as a capital of poverty and hunger.
Soon after, Itamaraty's press secretary Vera Machado gave an interview to OGLOBO, where she made the position of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs very clear, saying it is not under consideration to deny any visa request to the singer. If he comes to Brazil, he will not be denied entry. You can't try to hide a reality that exists in the country. On January 30th, the Itamaraty sent an official letter to the Brazilian consulate in New York, ordering the release of visas for Michael Jackson, Spike Lee, and 10 other technicians. But the political opposition was very strong and immediate. They managed to put pressure on the Itamaraty. Claiming that Michael Jackson had applied for the wrong visa category, he applied for a business visa when he should have applied for an artist visa. Unfortunately, the opposition's move worked. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs re-examined the applications, confirmed the mistake, and once again suspended the issuance of Michael Jackson's visas until the singer submitted a new application, the correct category. At the time, Spike Lee reacted to all this bureaucracy by saying it's all so stupid. I can't think anything of it, I just have to laugh. That's an exaggeration. We're not going to Rio to sell the idea that the city is the worst place in the world. The controversy even caused conflict between the city and the state of Rio. Because while the governor was against the king of pop coming, the then mayor Cesar Maia was in favor. And he not only decided to grant a permit authorizing the star's visit and filming, he also invited Michael Jackson to attend the Samba School Parade during Carnival and spend New Year's Eve in Rio de Janeiro. But even though it seemed like everything was settled, the mayor's permit didn't last very long either. Because shortly after, the lawyer Jorge Beja filed a public lawsuit against the mayor of Rio de Janeiro. And against Skylight, the Brazilian company hired to film Michael Jackson's music video.
The argument, which was winning at the time, was that the music video would harm the image of the city and the state abroad. The lawyer states in the lawsuit that no singer should have the freedom to expose other people's poverty for profit.
And on February 5th, Judge Lucas Felipe Haddad approved the injunction, suspending the filming of the music video for 20 days. This really worried Michael's team, since they were scheduled to arrive in the city that same week.
I think there will be freedom to show the music video.
While Mayor Cesar Maia said the injunction was ridiculous, Marcelo Alencar, the governor, he insinuated that Michael Jackson had no right to be near underprivileged children, referring to the sexual abuse allegations made against Michael Jackson, which to this day have never been proven. The situation was so chaotic that even Pelé joined the discussion, taking a stand against the king of pop filming in Brazil. At the time, he was the Minister of Sports. And despite admiring him as a player, Spike Lee criticized the star's position, saying Pelé may be a great soccer player, but he's definitely not a good politician. And while the authorities were worried about the impact of the video, this was how Brazilians felt about Michael coming. Here. The community was eager for Michael Jackson's arrival and the visibility he would bring to the social injustices faced by the residents of the favela. But the behavior of the authorities seemed to only confirm the title of the song, which, by the way, was also the first line of the music video, recorded in Portuguese by the journalist Angélica Vieira. It was at that moment that the true protagonists of the music video, the residents of the community, finally had a voice in this whole discussion. José Luis de Oliveira, who was then the president of the Santa Marta Favela Residents Association, organized a petition in the community requesting permission to record the music video. He collected several signatures and sent them directly to the President of the Republic, Fernando Henrique Cardoso. The letter said, "The fee we are going to receive will help us improve the daycare and take a step toward opening the clinic, which is currently closed. If the governor doesn't want tourists to see the poverty, then he should throw a tarp over the favelas, or else turn the hill into Copacabana or Ipanema." And just when it seemed like they would have to look for another place to shoot, actor Antonio Pitanga, one of the most important names in Brazilian cinema, stepped in. At the time, Antonio was in his last year as a city councilman in Rio de Janeiro, and his main goal was to bring visibility to the problems of poverty and social inequality in Brazilian culture. Antonio filed a writ of mandamus, appealing against the judge's injunction, based on an article of the Constitution that prohibits the censorship of artistic works. The long-awaited news arrived the next day.
Judge Humberto Ferri of the Third Civil Chamber overturned the injunction early in the afternoon and banned filming the music video in the favela.
They finally received government approval to film the music video, and no one appealed this time. Unfortunately, the problems weren't over yet, because in Rio de Janeiro, my friend, Michael's team would also need another authorization from the criminal faction that controlled Morro Dona Marta. On February 8th, one day before Michael arrived, Sony, his record label then, announced that due to many difficulties, Rio de Janeiro was no longer in the plans. But Spike Lee stepped in and insisted on filming in Rio, saying that if he needed to negotiate with the boss of the hill, he would do it himself. Spike then asked the police to escort his team to the Santa Marta favela, but the police refused to help. After all, to go up the hill, they would need to carry out a massive operation involving special forces, and a lot of people would end up losing their lives. But Spike Lee persisted. He contacted Skylight, the music video's production company in Brazil, and asked them to send someone to arrange Michael's entry into the favela. That's when Katia Lund came into the picture, who today is one of the biggest film directors in Brazil, but at the time was just starting her career.
And then the production team asked the producer Tim Maia, "But why put a woman in the favela to do this job?" And then he said, "Do you think I'm crazy to put a man in there?"
According to the producer, the negotiation happened only with the Residents Association of the favela. But between us, we know that nothing happens in the favela without the permission of the boss of the hill. At that time, Marcinho Verdadeiro Profeta, one of Rio de Janeiro's most feared drug dealers, controlled the Santa Marta favela. But, to everyone's surprise, when he heard that Michael Jackson wanted to film in his area, he simply agreed. Marcinho Verdadeiro Profeta said he was a huge fan of the King of Pop, especially Michael Jackson. Inside there, Santa Marta was going to become the safest place in the world. He also said that Michael's team could leave $1 million worth of filming equipment on the streets of the favela. No one was going to lay a finger on it.
A guy, the favela crew, so we had to go see him to make sure Michael Jackson was safe. Had to pay him a little money. But he said, while you're here, Michael Jackson and you guys, this would be the safest place. The world, you could put $1,000 bill on the ground and you come back the next night, it's gonna be there, and he was right.
That negotiation didn't happen in secret, no. It was even in the newspapers. Marcinho, vice president, told OGLOBO that police could never guarantee Michael Jackson's safety in the favela.
The authorization for Michael Jackson to film on the Hill came from the drug dealer Marcinho, vice president, who was the head of the drug trade in Dona Marta. In a Saturday night press conference, Marcinho, vice president, announced an agreement with drug trade, but trade.
This story about the production having paid a faction ended up discrediting the Rio government even more. At the time, the chief of civil police, Helio Luz, stated that Spike Lee only paid because he's a sucker. He was likely already used to this in the United States, which is why he tried it here too. But the police chief got a comeback from Spike Lee himself, who replied by saying, "I think I was actually very smart. Your police don't seem to have much authority over there, man." The worst part is, they do have authority, but some top government forces prefer those areas to be run by drug traffickers. Quoting the speech of the current president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, the state is always stronger than any criminal organization. When a country doesn't solve its crime problems, it's because there is no will to solve them. And in some cases, it's because they are partners with the criminals, so obviously they won't attack their partners. I could talk about this for hours, but that's not the video's topic. To better understand Brazil, I suggest watching Elite Squad 2, which feels more like a dossier on the country than a movie. But getting back to the video. On February 9th, 1996, Michael Jackson finally landed in Brazil.
He landed at noon at Salvador Airport, hat on his head, mask on his face.
Advisors who traveled with him said Michael Jackson sang the entire flight. He was thrilled to visit Brazil and so charmed by our people that he even went out in public to take photos. He just didn't expect that Brazilians don't know the meaning of the word limit.
The megastar broke protocol and took a walk to be photographed next to director Spike Lee. Then he even walked along the track, skipping the car that was waiting for him. Michael Jackson's friendly attitude caused a bit of a commotion among the journalists and Air Force soldiers who tried in vain to stop the work of photographers and cameramen.
In no time, things got out of control. Thousands of fans started to invade the airport, and Michael Jackson had to quickly get into the car on the side.
Outside the airport, a lot of confusion, people running everywhere.
From the airport, Michael Jackson went straight to the tropical Dabea Hotel, where he was going to stay. But even there, things were far from calming down.
Arriving at the downtown Salvador Hotel caused more confusion, as no one knew how he entered.
The singer Michael Jackson arrived at his hotel just a short while ago, where he will be staying. He arrived in disguise, upsetting both fans and the press.
Staying in the presidential suite on the 11th floor, Michael Jackson ordered a variety of tropical fruits and traditional dishes to try Brazilian cuisine. And seeing the large crowd of people outside, he decided once again to greet his fans from the window.
Michael Jackson drives people wild.
As a way of showing gratitude, Michael Jackson had his team hand out several photos autographed by him to the fans. But people were so desperate that most of the photos ended up being torn. During the rush, it felt like those 90s parties when the candy balloon popped. Everyone went wild. And meanwhile, Spike Lee was already starting preparations for the shoot, which was going to happen the next day.
While the star rests, the music video director is welcomed with a celebration. Spike Lee, in Pelourinho, wearing a Brazil jersey and Lodum hat, spoke with the journalist.
For those who don't know, Holodum is a cultural group from Bahia that's very well known for their carnival parades. Tonio Materia, a singer in the group, has already discussed on a podcast how the connection between Michael Jackson and Holodum happened.
And Michael Jackson used to research music from around the world and discovered Holodum's beat. And he sent 3 months before, 6 months before the rhythm, the way he wanted it to be so the band could follow along.
In the late afternoon, Spike Lee went to explore the streets of Pelourinho and marked the recording spots with the Holodum band. He attended the last rehearsal.
The next morning, February 10th, was the big recording day.
Michael Jackson shakes the Pelourinho on the first day of shooting the music video, which he came to record in Brazil.
Passing by a sunshade surrounded by security, he suddenly appears in the distant square. Fans scream as Michael approaches.
And he who usually avoids crowds asked the security guards to clear a path. He wanted to get closer to the fans.
Michael spent hours taking pictures, signing autographs, and tasting the local food. While some artists seem to be disgusted by Brazil and our culture, Michael Jackson showed incredible humility and an immediate connection with our people.
He returns smiling and heads to the makeshift dressing room. Soon after, he crosses the square and enters a large house opposite.
After lunch in Pelourinho, Michael Jackson stepped onto the balcony and fans went wild.
Shortly after noon, the music video recording finally started.
The music starts playing and he appears dancing in the window. It's the first scene of the video recorded in Bahia.
Another, the most anticipated moment happened at 3 in the afternoon. Wearing the Holodom's shirt and in great spirits, Michael Jackson came down to start the recording. He puts on a show. The people of Bahia can hardly believe what they're seeing.
Man, I wouldn't believe it either. Have the guys from Holodom's ever thought about how it feels today to have worked with Michael Jackson?
When I picked up the drum, when I took a quick look, seeing him with his hand, I said, "Guys."
At that moment, my heart was beating so fast that I even
had my lips turn white.
It was like that. A guy...
That's me. Did that really happen? It felt like a dream.
But the recording was far from peaceful, despite over 200 military police officers present. The people's desperation was so great that, at one point during the filming, 2 fans managed to break through the police blockade and grab Michael Jackson. He fell to the ground, but soon got up and kept dancing as if nothing had happened.
Who knocked Michael Jackson down? It wasn't me. The other girl hugged him from behind, and when they stretched him too much, he fell.
You know, the most impressive part is he kept that scene in the music video. Another controversy during filming involved Michael Jackson's actions, which prompted a military police investigation.
Michael touches a police officer, pretends to attack him, and takes a soldier's helmet in Salvador.
The military police are reviewing footage of Michael Jackson with officers during the music video shoot. They went to Pelourinho to ensure the singer's safety, and no one was consulted about including the police officers in the filming.
He didn't remove that scene either, though. It's only in the extended music video. But if the filming in Salvador was chaotic, my friend, in Rio de Janeiro, it would be much more so.
In Pelourinho, Spike Lee's crew had no issues working, but in Rio there was major controversy. After filming in Salvador, Bahia, Michael Jackson went directly to Rio de Janeiro. Michael gets out of the car and scenes start being filmed. They're also part of the music video. But do these soldiers know? More? In one scene, Michael runs after him with the soldiers. It looks like a chase.
Whenever he stayed in a country, Michael Jackson liked to film scenes running with the military, as if he were a leader. But unfortunately, he didn't include this scene with the Rio soldiers in the music video. Afterwards, he returned again to the Copacabana Palace Hotel, but he didn't stay there for long either.
He came onto the balcony several times, and with so many kisses and waves, what once seemed impossible now seemed possible. The star would leave the hotel. The answer came at lunchtime, when Michael Jackson came down for a quick helicopter ride.
No more work, it's just a tourist's outing. Seeing Rio de Janeiro from above was an old dream of Michael Jackson's, and he was lucky. Sunday was gorgeous.
According to this article from OGLOBO newspaper, Michael Jackson was so enchanted with Rio de Janeiro that he kept saying over and over how beautiful this place is.
The tour didn't last long. He had more work to do. It was time to record. In the place that caused so much controversy, Dona Marta Favela, in the south zone of Rio, one of the largest in the city.
Michael landed on the soccer field of Morro Dona Marta in the early afternoon of February 11th today.
The hill stopped. Everyone wanted to see the star. Michael arrived by helicopter and soon disappeared into the alleys of the favela.
He wore black and red sunglasses under a sunshade. Surrounded by security guards, the unpredictable star walked through the hill and signed autographs.
It was more than 15 minutes of walking until he reached the house, which served as a dressing room on the rooftop. It took many hours to finalize the last details of the recording. Director Spike Lee was leading an army of more than 300 people, including technicians, cameramen, assistants, and security guards. It's time to record. Security is going to get Michael Jackson. Considered a difficult, demanding, and very problematic person, he turns out to be simple, friendly, and patient. Yeah, but the stars are perfectionists. And he even notices that he got his pants dirty while climbing up. The stain doesn't come out. It's okay.
I checked the official music video, and sure enough, that little stain was actually there. A curious fact is that, despite all this contact with the people and fans, Michael Jackson didn't give any interviews during his time in Brazil, except for this single answer to Gloria Maria's question.
Michael Jackson doesn't give interviews because he has to maintain the image of a myth. But we asked and he agreed. Say a word to the Brazilians, Michael. Say something to the Brazilian people, please.
I love you, Brazil.
After recording, Michael Jackson returned to the hotel but didn't stay long. He wanted to take a walk around the city.
That afternoon, he left the hotel for Copacabana Port. Fans surrounded the pickup truck.
Then, he went to the very important person gallery in Ipanema and tried to act like a normal person, shopping. Let's just say that didn't work out well.
Or by children with minimal security.
First, she went into a musical instrument store to buy things that aren't so easy to find in the United States: tamborim, reco-reco, agogo, viola caipira, and cuica. At the CD store, the disappointment was that the Beatles and Beach Boys collections she wanted weren't for sale. There, you can only rent them.
Outside, fans went wild. Michael Jackson repeatedly left the store despite security. He approached and tried to greet the fans. He gave out dozens of autographs.
Michael bought many bags of toys and musical instruments, giving gifts to children who crossed the barrier.
Rogerio, 11 years old, got money from his idol, $10.
I'm going to buy one of his tapes so I can listen to myself on Milkman, and I gave him one reel as a souvenir too.
Leaving the store was confusing. The Michael Jackson hurricane stopped traffic and security increased.
The Michael Jackson hurricane stopped the traffic, the security. The Polish guy, until he got to the car.
Afterwards, Michael Jackson went back to the hotel again, where he said his final goodbye to Brazil.
Fans will stay in front of the hotel until the very last moment. They scream, beg, cry, and sing. From the hotel balcony, with 2 gold records in his hands, he says goodbye to Rio de Janeiro.
In the Santa Marta community and in Bahia, the people thanked Michael Jackson for visiting and highlighting the social injustice residents of the favela face, which ended up being a strong message to the interests of certain politicians who don't care about us. On June 26, 2010, a bronze statue of Michael Jackson was inaugurated at the top of Dona Marta. Over 30 years after the music video, nothing has changed in Brazil. In fact, things have only worsened in Bahia. Today, you can't even take a picture without risking your life. And in Rio de Janeiro, the drug dealers have even taken pictures with a rifle hanging on the king of pop. And not long after, the thieves managed the feat of stealing the statue's glasses. This is Brazil. All of this just tragically proves the main idea of they don't care about us. Brazil is a country abandoned by the state, left in the hands of factions that now control 20% of our territory. And I think this will only change when Felka makes a video about it. And in the end, a clip that the rulers did everything possible and impossible to hide ended up doing much more for the community than the rulers themselves. But that wasn't the only chaotic clip recorded by an artist. In 2003, Snoop Dogg turned Rio de Janeiro upside down to be able to record the music video for Beautiful. To learn more about this story, just click on this video that's showing up here above. And if you want to see stories about other Michael Jackson songs, just click on this playlist that I'm leaving here on the side. Thank you for your company. See you in the next video.